She didn't slam the door. She didn't scream. She didn't explain. She just vanished. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. Sharp, calculated, empty enough to make you feel like you were never real to her. Now you're sitting there, refreshing her messages, replaying the last moment, wondering, was it something I said? Did I not matter? That silence, it's not a mistake. It's a message, and you weren't meant to understand it. You were meant to react to it, to chase, to doubt yourself, to slowly fall apart in private while she watches from a distance. This is what most men never realize. When a woman suddenly grows cold, it's not always because she lost interest. Sometimes it's a test. Sometimes it's a subtle punishment. And sometimes it's about control. But what if you didn't take the bait? What if, instead of reacting like every man before you, you disappeared deeper than she ever expected? Not in anger, but in stillness, in silence, in power. This video is not about getting her back. It's about getting yourself back. I'm going to show you how to respond like a Stoic, not with emotion, but with discipline, not with desperation, but with presence. You'll learn how to turn her silence into your fuel, how to unsettle her ego without lifting a finger, and most of all, how to become the kind of man who is never ignored again. Let's begin. 1. Indifference is the loudest response. When she goes quiet, your first instinct is to speak, to fix, to reach for something, anything, to feel in control again. That's what most men do. They react. They spiral. They feed her silence with anxious words. And she feeds off that reaction like fuel to her ego. But the Stoic man, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't chase clarity. He doesn't try to make noise where there's meant to be stillness. Instead, he retreats into silence, not from anger, not from weakness, but from absolute command of himself. Because here's the truth most men miss. Silence isn't absence, it's power. When you don't react, you leave a void, a blank page, and people project their fears onto empty spaces. She'll wonder, did I lose him? Why isn't he reaching out? Is he already done? Her ego, once bloated by your pursuit, starts to deflate. Because indifference is not passive, it's active rejection of emotional dependency. It whispers, I don't need your attention to validate who I am. I don't audition for approval. I choose where I invest, and you no longer qualify. The beauty of this quiet strength is that it unravels her sense of control. It unsettles her more than 100 desperate messages ever could. And the best part? It's not a game. It's not revenge. It's just presence without need. So the next time she goes silent, don't post cryptic stories. Don't write long messages trying to prove your worth. Just disappear, calmly, completely, confidently. Let her ego starve in the silence she created. and let her question everything she thought she knew. 2. Needing nothing, expecting even less. There's something more dangerous than rejection. It's needing closure from someone who's already walked away. That's where most men fall. They wait. They hope. They expect her to explain, to validate, to say something that makes it all make sense. But here's the truth. Expectation is emotional quicksand. The more you hope she'll give you answers, the deeper you sink into her frame. Because the moment you start needing something from her, you're no longer in control. She is. She owns the ending. She owns your peace. That's why the Stoic man breaks free. He doesn't beg for respect. He doesn't wait for closure. He doesn't expect kindness from someone who's gone cold. He walks away, not to win, but to protect what's left of himself. And when he walks, he leaves with zero emotional debt. No games, no bitterness, no messages sent in the dark. And that shakes her ego in ways no confrontation ever could. Because a man who needs nothing, nothing at all, becomes a mirror she can't control. He's not numb, he's just self-governing. He can feel the sting, but he chooses not to bleed in front of her. And when she realizes her silence no longer affects him, that's when the game ends. That's when she starts to wonder, did he stop caring? Was I never that important? The man who expects nothing becomes the one thing no ego can predict. A presence that can't be manipulated. 3. The echo effect. You want her to regret it, to feel the sting she made you feel. You want to say something, but what if your silence could scream louder? There's a weapon most men never master. It's called the echo effect. Here's how it works. When you're emotionally present in someone's life, you become part of their rhythm. Their phone lights up when you text. Their mind expects your name to appear. There's a subtle pattern, a heartbeat of attention you've both adjusted to. But when that rhythm breaks, when you vanish without a word, you don't just leave a gap, you create an emotional vacuum. And the mind hates vacuums, so it fills them with questions. Why did he disappear? Did I push him too far? What happened? Your absence becomes the trigger. The silence becomes the noise. It loops in her head like a melody missing the last note. She checks your profile. She notices you're not there, and that absence starts to echo through her ego. Because women don't fear losing your presence. They fear being replaced by your indifference. So don't send that final message. Don't explain yourself. Don't try to leave the door half open. Close it quietly. Leave nothing behind. And let the void speak for itself. When you disappear without drama, you become the disturbance. You flip the roles. She's now the one wondering, the one chasing meaning, the one hearing the echo of her own silence. That's how you win. Not by shouting, but by walking away so completely that the silence you leave behind becomes the only thing she hears. 4. Reverse the mirror. When she ignores you, Don't argue. Don't explain. Don't chase. Instead, become the mirror. Not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reveals. You don't throw words at her ego. You let her see herself through the man she can no longer affect. That's psychological warfare, Stoic style. You upgrade silently. Your routine sharpens. Your body transforms. Your world expands without her in it. And she sees it. She sees it when she checks your story and you're smiling like nothing happened. She hears it when her friends mention your name and you're not hiding or hurting. You're evolving. She realizes you didn't just move on, you elevated. Not to make her jealous, but because you never needed her validation to begin with. And that shatters ego, because now you're not a man begging for closure. You're a man she doesn't even recognize. Unbothered, unreachable, unapologetically new. That's the reversal. You didn't attack her. You just became better, so visibly, so calmly, that she's forced to feel the weight of her own actions. A mirror never yells. It reflects, it reveals, and it lets the viewer carry the guilt. So become that reflection. Let your silence show her who she really was, and let your growth remind her of the man she'll never get back. 5. Be where she isn't. Want to shatter her ego? Don't block her. Don't ghost her. Just stop orbiting her world. Be where she isn't, and make sure she notices. Here's the psychology. When someone expects your presence, and suddenly you're gone, their mind scrambles for answers. That silence, it isn't neutral, it's disturbing. She notices you're not watching her stories. She sees your name missing from her new post. She realizes you're no longer posting from the same places, but from places she can't access. And now, she's not just confused, she's unsettled, because confusion is where ego begins to crack. Most men try to become more visible, hoping to win her back with presence, but that only fuels her control. The Stoic man? He doesn't feed her certainty. He reclaims it by becoming strategically invisible, not to manipulate, not to sulk, but to say, without words, I don't orbit what no longer centers me. When she sees you no longer respond, no longer show up in expected places, the frame collapses. Her need to control the narrative fades, because she can't predict you anymore. She can't track your energy. She can't find you where she once had access. That's when absence becomes presence. That's when silence becomes power. So disappear, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect, and let her feel the ache, right where she assumed you'd always be. 6. The final power move. The most devastating move a man can make isn't silence. It isn't disappearance. It's the reappearance, reborn, unreachable, and unapologetic. You vanish, you go quiet. But while she's busy watching for signs of weakness, you evolve in silence. You rebuild yourself brick by brick. You hit the gym, not out of revenge, but to sculpt a version of you she never believed you could become. You expand your mind, change your circle, pursue what makes you powerful. Then, one day, you reappear, not in her inbox, not outside her apartment, but in the world. You're no longer the man who begged. You're no longer accessible. You've turned your silence into discipline, your absence into presence. And when she sees you again, when your name resurfaces in conversations, when your photos show you thriving, when your energy radiates something untouchable, her ego crumbles, because now she can't just reach out. You've gone beyond the version of you she once ignored. And deep down, she knows you're no longer someone she could get back, even if she tried. That's the final Stoic move, not to win her back, but to grow into someone she could never reach again. A man who doesn't chase. He builds. He doesn't explain. He becomes undeniable. You don't return to her. You return to yourself. Stronger, sharper, sealed in self-respect. And while she's left wondering what happened, you've become the storm she never saw coming. You didn't need revenge. You needed evolution. And now your presence does what your words never could. It rewrites the narrative. She'll remember your silence more than your pleas. She'll remember your absence more than your presence. And she'll remember that you didn't destroy her ego with anger. You destroyed it by becoming untouchable. So ask yourself, are you ready to disappear for real, so you can return as a man no woman forgets? Let me know in the comments, what's one thing you've built in silence that shocked everyone when they saw the new you? Hit that like button if this message hit home, and subscribe to the Stoic Spirit for more fire like this, because the next video might just be the mirror you never knew you needed. See you soon.